I believe that entrepreneurship is not for everyone.
Just how many times can you fail before giving up in business? I interviewed Achmad Zaky, the founder of this country's first e-commerce giant. Here in Jakarta, he told me that the IPO of Bukalapak was his proudest moment. And he's been thinking a lot about how to help other entrepreneurs succeed. In this interview, you'll find real insights about the untapped potential of Indonesia's innovation ecosystem through the eyes of one of its pioneers. Zaky, my team dug up that actually one of your very first ventures while you were still a student was that you sold meatballs in a street cart.
Yeah.
I also hear that you scaled that business up, maybe 10 or so of them, but then you decided to shut it down. What drives that experimentation spirit?
I like build things. When I was, I think, 7 years old, I make a library and then ran a book to the villager. Yeah, I make that. And then I made many business when I was high school, junior, senior high school, and then in college I make that things. And then of course everything is not doing great, but I like to learn.
What did you learn from the failures?
I think the way I learn, there are many people that learn from books, video, but for me, I think I learn from doing.
So before we dive straight into the business, I'd like to ask you about your experience with some of the rural entrepreneurs that you've supported over the years. Is there maybe a story of some time that you've had an impact or heard about something in their lives that's really changed that you'd want to share with us?
I really like entrepreneurs. I admire entrepreneurs who create the business. It's really hard, I can empathize them because entrepreneur is like the hero of our, I think any generation. The one who built the nation, the built civilization is, for me, actually, it's entrepreneur. The builder, they are the builder, and I really have a respect on them because they try, fail, and try again. And I see many, even in Bukalapak, I see many small entrepreneurs in that case that really have their entrepreneurial spirit, even though they are small, but the spirit is there. They are good people. They are honest. They are work hard. That's what I see in entrepreneurs. And
you decided to focus on these warang, right? The micro entrepreneurs. Now, why did you decide to focus on them when others maybe were looking at large, enterprises or retailers? Why focus on the small entrepreneurs?
I think Indonesia is very unique back then. The first reason, of course, marketplace is already red ocean back then. We have so many players, and all of them have so much money. I remember 2017, I realized that I think we need something different, the differentiator of Bukalapak. And Bukalapak means, right? Lapaks mean a small store. It's not fancy store, but it's like, just bring a paper, then sell in the street. That's lapak.
That's
Buka mean open.
So open, the small store.
Open, very small store. That's kind of the spirit of Bukalapak back then. We are more grassroots. That's why start from that spirit. We realized that Indonesia is very unique. We have 70% retail sales is still happening in that small store. That's why we explore that and start from small. The numbers looks good, and then we experiment again, try make it bigger, and then make it bigger again. After success at a certain point, we go to the next level. Up until I think Mitra Bukalapak is one of the biggest contributor of revenue of Bukalapak.
It's an incredible story. You are one of the original generation, right? So, I mean, I've experienced it myself over in Dubai with Nemshi. When we co-founded this company, it was like, there were maybe a handful of tech companies in the ecosystem. And similarly, you were here at the very beginnings. So I'd like to just reflect on that a bit. And I want to hone in on maybe a challenge that you faced, because I'll share one with you that I didn't expect. So Nemshi was, we were selling fashion and footwear on e-commerce. And we anticipated a lot of challenges, of course, right, across the board. One that we did not anticipate having was that after getting money, which was hard, we wanted to go buy supply, so actually buy the shoes and buy to put in our warehouse. So we had cash to actually give to the supplier and they told us, no, we won't sell to you. And it didn't even cross our minds that we wouldn't have that, we'd have that challenge, right? And it was actually that they didn't know who we were and they didn't want their products maybe on some no-name, website. And there was distrust. So that's an example from my experience. Anything surprising to you in those early days, a challenge that you faced?
Oh, so many. There were many challenges. First, no one, like you mentioned, no one know Bukalapak back then. Same. When we start a company, what we get, for example, this is when we hire a talent. Of course, we cannot get the best. Nobody know Bukalapak back then. So we have to compromise many things.
And even I remember finding talent on the talent point. It's like
really
we
hard.
wanted digital marketers, but they didn't exist. Right. So you actually have to figure out how to bridge that gap.
I think since I investing in many startup, I feel like there is a common pattern. That's the challenge that happening in every early stage. If you can tackle that kind of challenge, it means you are a great founder.
Because you have to convince the early employee, just like you convince the investor.
Yes, because it's new thing. If everything goes smooth, then everyone can enter, right? It's like the other flip coin. If everything's smooth, everything easy, it means everyone can do it too.
So what was your trick to convince those early employees to leave whatever they were doing and join your mission? How did you do it?
We use, I was graduated from ITB. ITB is like the MIT version in here. It's a reputable university. I have so many friends, so they believe in me.
So you use your personal network to at least start by saying, I'm putting my reputation.
At least we have I'm putting my reputation on them and they trust me, then here we go.
And then that's where we have to start. Other challenges that you faced besides finding employees early days, what were the other major challenges?
Of course, the customer adoption, because not many customer, or especially the merchant side, they didn't know many things about e-commerce back then. E-commerce is very new things. Back then, how we use e-commerce was, I remember we still do like transfer. It's still manual.
You were doing bank
many
transfers.
people in Indonesia use bank transfer. They call, they transfer. Many people believe in transactional e-commerce, more modern version of e-commerce, using one click and then ship the product. They don't want to bother to pack and then ship and then put the airway bill. It's more complex, but actually more scalable in the future. You don't believe in that. So that's also biggest challenge. The second is also the partner, the bank. When we talk to the bank, they didn't want to open the API, open the payment, because
so you were trying to connect with the banks technically through their
the bank
interface.
Didn't. This is not going to work. They say.
Why would we want to work with you?
Because they need money to develop that kind of API, new feature in the bank side. But when we show them the numbers, they start to adopt. That's always like that. In any technology wave or new things wave, always like chicken and egg. We have to push crossing the chasm.
So crossing the chasm is a really important principle in customer adoption, right? Because in the early days, you might find those early adopters who are so passionate about what you're offering. Maybe they're just passionate because you're Indonesian, or they're passionate because this really meets a need. But the real test is how you're able to go from those early adopters to that early majority, right? So
that's the most important part.
How were you able to make that jump?
We were very lucky because the timing is right. Back then, so many capital coming, especially because the Fed rate is so low and everyone coming to Asia.
So interest rates
I think in general
low
happening in Middle East too. Right? That was we call it the golden age of tech startup back then. 2015 until 2020 fundraising. we were very lucky,
Yeah.
many funding, and then with that kind of funding, we can do many things, developing more easier product, convince the bank, convince the partner, doing TV ads, also helping in crossing that chasm. So I think that helped a lot.
Yeah, going out to a broader audience than you would
broader
normally.
audience.
I'd like to ask you about the education side of the early ecosystem building.
Yeah.
You mentioned the challenge faced with trying to, convince the sellers, also the buyers. I mean, you're quite complex because it's a marketplace. And on both sides, there's quite a bit of educating that needs to happen, as it's all quite new. How did you go about actually educating the customer, educating the seller in order to help your business grow?
Indonesia is, back then, this has happened 10 years ago. I still remember, Indonesia is I realized that Indonesia is very social culture. They like to gather, they like to be part of community. What we built was community, seller community. So they teach each other. I think we are the pioneer of community sellers. So we have many education session to educate this kind of seller, and the educator is the successful seller, not us. We are not the trainer because we don't know anything. They are who know how to sell.
So you gave them a platform for the sellers themselves to be able to train other sellers.
Yeah.
And then there's a multiplying effect, basically.
Yes, it's amazing because you don't need so many capital to do that. It's like community. It's run
you're
by
leveraging
seller.
your own sellers to actually bring you more sellers.
Yeah.
And did that hone in on any part of, let's say, Indonesian culture or specific factors that you felt were unique to Indonesia?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest factor why Bukalapak were success back then, because of the community. That's kind of relationship that we are trying to build back then.
Building an authentic community is very difficult for an outsider to come in and say, oh, I want to create a seller community.
I think recently, since I invest in many startup also explore this kind of community relationship, because that's differentiate local company and global who enter local. This is one framework or strategy that local startup can use in any part of the world. Local community.
So take us back to that dorm room when you and your co-founder hatched the idea for Bukalapak. Where did the inspiration come from?
I went to US back then, 2009. I got scholarship. I was very lucky because the scholarship is for students who cannot speak English, and I was the one who selected. I was very lucky. And then in the US, I saw many people use e-commerce back then. Not many, like Indonesia is quite new. We use a forum and then still do a calling and then manual. But in US, like I try Amazon, one click, and then tomorrow the product coming. Wow, it's amazing. This is and everyone use it. It's in the everyone mind. But in Indonesia, I feel like no people use this kind of thing. That's why in 2010, after back from the scholarship, I built Bukalapak. That's the idea. But I modified with the local because Amazon model is more centralized, right? Have a warehouse, high capex. I didn't have a capital back then. That's why I only have a software engineer. I was software engineer, and then I can code, and then I just create the platforms so everyone can sell. So it's less capex, simpler, more simple than Amazon, and then boom.
How much was it that from the beginning you had the vision and the plan, and how much was it that you were kind of two computer science students tinkering around and seeing what actually might stick?
Actually, the reality is we think short term at first because maybe this can work. I didn't know venture capital back then. even we didn't have vision to get the funding. Startup investment is very new for me. I was a computer scientist, not like a financial expert or something like that. That's why when this funding flow came in, we just realized, oh, this is getting real, and then getting bigger and bigger, and then we stick on it and build a more proper organization, more proper company.
And take me to the time when you felt like, wow, this is taking off. Something is really special here, because a marketplace is tough, right?
Yes.
When you have to get both sides right and the formula to kind of click. When did it start clicking for you?
I think it's happening in 2014 when we got massive funding. We got 10 million back then. It's not, if you compare it to now, present time, maybe 10 million is not much.
But a decade ago, 10 million in Indonesia is a big number.
It was huge. But for us, it's like, whoa, this is a real moment. It's getting real. And everyone know, at least I think my mom, I'm from village. That's the first time when my mom used Bukalapak. Yeah, install and then they buy. And then that's also the first time my mom used WhatsApp and have a phone. And that's the right time. I mean, I think that's the moment when everyone in Indonesia have phone. They install WhatsApp, they install Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That's the time, right? It's like mobile revolution. Everyone uses mobile suddenly, and then our growth was 60 times a year. Yeah, we grew like crazy, 60 times the numbers.
And you hit it at the right time with all the other trends that were happening.
Yes.
And with a product that seemed to resonate with people.
Yeah. And when we do the ads, everyone like eating. I mean, they catch Bukalapak and they use Bukalapak.
I'm curious as to your take on, Indonesians who are currently maybe in university, thinking about taking that step and becoming an entrepreneur. What recommendation do you have for them? I mean, should they follow in your footsteps, or perhaps drop out of school and start the company? What do you think is?
I believe that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. It's for small certain of people. So I think when student or people want to be an entrepreneur, they have to realize that it's really hard, and then it takes many things to be sacrificed, like your time, your family. They have to be ready, and then and also, I mean, fun. They have to fun to doing it.
Like they have the real passion for it.
Yes.
It's an interesting. I mean, there's a misnomer generally about this kind of like school dropout that becomes the billionaire, and that usually it's, as you said, A, it's for a specific segment, and B, experience does usually help quite a bit.
Actually, if you see the statistic, the number of college dropout is thin, but in the story they are more appealing. But the number is, I think it's happened recently also, because we oversee every year. We see thousands of company before we decided to invest, and I see the trend is many founders recently came from more experienced employee. They worked
already previously.
Previously for a unicorn company or startup, and then it's more mature. It's not like in my time. My time was different, because no supply.
Everything
supply.
from zero.
Because
I know how that feels.
Everything is zero, nothing. And then we as an undergraduate have courage to do that, and then take risks. Then suddenly boom. But right now the money is there, the talent is there too. the idea that we have so many ideas right now to be launched as a startup, and undergraduate student right now recently have less advantage than before.
And what did you take from your experience at Bukalapak that you've leveraged into Init6?
Yeah, first I think the experience. I think Init6 is in a way totally different approach. We have a different approach compared to the other VC, which is usually come from financial background. They are more financial expert, but for us, we are more operational expert.
You're a venture capitalist that has an operational expertise.
I think we are so far, the one of the biggest VC, early stage VC that have very long experience in making company from zero to IPO. At least we are very proud of it, and then we can have advice. We give advice to them, to the founders. It's one of the biggest value proposition of Init6 compared to just money. Money, of course, you can get from many investor, but advice is rare, right? I mean,
especially when you've lived it, right?
Yeah.
It's like a completely different thing when you've lived it.
And when you live with it, it's like you feel it. You becoming a friend to the founders. Yeah, usually. The relationship between founder and investor is like very transactional, right? But if you were experienced founder, you live as a founder back then, you can feel it. Oh, I think these founders have a problem. We can talk heart to heart, and they are more open, more open to
the
ex-founder.
The counseling advice.
And that's the most important part, because the danger happen when the founders not sharing to the shareholder. They have a problem, but they're
like,
not sharing.
You can actually add a lot of value.
Yeah, because the relationship is very transactional. But for us, the relationship is like friend.
I'd love to have you put your investor hat on and imagine yourself as somebody kind of early in their career, has amassed about $10,000, and they want to invest it. So what assets or investment would you recommend to them?
10,000 only?
It's $10,000. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's still somebody early career, so it's significant to them.
It really depends on the situation, yeah. But if it's someone who has a expert and have a skill very specific and want to create private company with the 10,000, you can make start very small, of course. Start company.
In any particular space?
I think you can start from something that you expert. Invest in yourself. Focus on the things that you passionate about. I think that's the biggest. The start is always something that you already strong. Let's say you study math, then you can create a math startup, something like that. If you study AI, create AI startup. I think if the money is only 10,000, then the biggest revenue will be the income of your job. Is it start a company or work as a professional?
I know in Init6 you invest early, right?
Yeah,
so as a VC, I would love to get your take on a story of a founder or a company that maybe was like you were not so sure of in the beginning. You were thinking this is
many.
Yeah.
This is the paradox of being a VC. I found that something that you think will success a lot of time will not success. if you think that this is just give a try, probably it become huge.
This resonates with me. I think at Astrolabs we were also trying to build ecosystem in the beginning. We had co-working space. We had founders in the space. So my partner Louis and I, we would see these small companies that just started, right? So with a couple of founders, lots of passion, big market potential. And I remember one case in particular where we both were like, if we had a fund, we would definitely invest in these guys. We have all the information, they're here in the space, everything, it's perfect, right? Within like 3 months, the company went out of business, right? And it was a very humbling moment and a reminder that actually investing early is not an easy thing to do.
It's not easy.
How was your transition from operator to investor, and how do you think about making the math work on actually a successful fund?
There is one company that we invest called Gently. We invest in very gently. They sell a baby care product.
Baby care.
And we invest in very early. Even they just started, and then the revenue is still small. Right now, the growth is amazing. 50x, I can say, since our investment.
What was the special sauce? Why was Gently successful versus
the founders? The founders.
What about the founders?
The founders is. She graduated from MIT and very driven, very sharp, and very experimentation. Also, the execution is there. I think that's what makes great founders.
Actually, I was just teaching a course on entrepreneurship, and one of the guests I had in, my friend Amir, who's a founder of a venture fund in Dubai called Kotu, and it stands for Champions of the Underdog. So, and his investment philosophy has been to focus on, the persona of the founder, somebody who's been through some difficult stuff in their lives, right? So they're an underdog, and he wants to be the first money in and support them. I wonder, from your own experience, being from central Java, growing up outside of Jakarta, being kind of from the periphery. How much has that informed your view as an investor and as an entrepreneur?
I think Indonesia is different, right? I mean, so many part of Indonesia is different. Jakarta, of course, in the highest level. Jakarta is not actually. In general, most of Indonesia is not like Jakarta. So I feel I can feel becoming the mass market, the middle class, and that's where most market middle in the middle. There's a upper, middle, and then bottom. And being middle, I think in Indonesia 80%, and that's our thesis actually. We develop our thesis based on if the startup attacking this middle class, I think they are on track. That's why we invest in dental clinic. Also, it's massive. It's good company. They provide the affordable dental clinic. It's not like fancy dental clinic, because we believe if you are too fancy, you cannot go to Central Java. But if you just functional, affordable, but you put quality on it, everyone will, all over Indonesia can afford it. Definitely, they can pay premium, but not super premium.
And you've made over 50 investments, right?
Yes.
In its 6, and so you I'm sure see a bunch of the pipeline in terms of applicants for funding from around the country. What are the latest trends that you're seeing in terms of where the founders are focusing their energies?
Right now, the many founders, because of the tech winter, sadly, the tech winter happening.
With meaning the tech winter, the funding level is now lower, so harder to get funding.
And I think because of the many layoff too, many founders is hesitant to start a tech company. Right now, the supply of founders is come from the consumer. We also, as a VC, also expanding our thesis into consumer also, because the supply in the pure tech is very low. That's why we're expanding to consumer and also healthcare. Because Indonesia, if you see the demographic of Indonesia, the most population in Indonesia is in 30 to 50. That's the most Indonesian, age. And then they will be older. They will get older. And that's potential for healthcare for the future.
I'd love to hear more about that. So what types of innovative opportunities, technologies, or companies have you been seeing in the healthcare space?
Like dental clinic, I think the idea is very basic. It's like Bukalapak also very basic, right? It's e-commerce. It's happened in the US too. But even the basic service or basic things in Indonesia, we still lack of basic needs. And then providing dental clinic all over Indonesia is no-brainer. It's low-hanging fruit.
So there's a lot of opportunity in even just the servicing the basic needs.
Yes, but of course you have to have a high quality. That's where technology came in. How to make sure that we call it tech enable. How doing a service with the higher quality but at lower cost. That's where technology, they use AI to check your healthiness, your dent, and then they use the software, of course, to optimize the operations. That's kind of thing.
So you're currently looking at more blended type businesses that are not pure tech, that have actually a physical component.
I can call it tech inspired. I mean, it's technological framework because the consumer and healthcare is very asset light.
Yes.
We don't invest in big box hospital with a very high capex, something like that. It's small chain and very asset light. And in consumer especially, you don't need a lot of capital to launch consumer products. It's quite if once the cycle is there, then it's very high margin. It's like a software company actually. Consumer is like software, and healthcare it's like a software company.
How is consumer like a software company?
The margin, the margin is high. You know, average margin of software is 70%.
Yeah.
In consumer, Indonesia also have that kind of margin.
That kind of 70% margin in consumer.
Yeah.
Because normally you think of consumer as not having high margin.
No,
that's why you do
this
software.
This is a high margin. High margin consumer. It's not like commoditized consumer.
Yeah.
And you have to build brand. You have to build the quality of the products.
Typically, when we think a consumer goods type company, there's a cost of goods sold. There's kind of there's a lot of costs that go into it, which really reduces the margin. And software is the solution to that. And you're saying, but here in Indonesia, it's a bit different.
Yeah, it's a bit different.
Why is it different here versus other markets?
I think there are many lacks of quality products. I think with the coming middle class, the wave of new middle class, they expect more quality of products. And the more quality products mean a higher margin. I think they can pay more. Of course, again, not like a super premium, but this is just a middle class which is expecting higher quality product.
And that's your thesis at its 6 is like focus on that 80%, focus on...
Like Coca-Cola, if you check the Coca-Cola right now, they only focus on the brand.
Yep, and the bottlers are separate.
The distributor, they just give it to local player, and then the production, they give it to someone else. It's becoming a brand. It's becoming like tech company. It's very asset-like, and then they just license the brand and the recipe. that's the Coca-Cola, right? That's why Warren Buffett invests in it.
Interesting. And back in the day in Bukalapak, you set a lofty goal, right, to create a fairer economy for all. To what extent do you feel like you've reached that? What else needs to be done in order to get to that goal?
I think compared to when I was starting Bukalapak, no much better. You can see many small business flourish. So many. It's different than my time back then. In my time, it's very hard to start a business. You have to have money to open store or to launch a brand. It's very hard. You have to have capital. You have to do TV ads right now. That's also the reason why we love consumer. Right now, the channel of distribution is easy. It's accessible to many players. And also the channel of marketing. You can do Instagram instantly using someone influencer, a weird influencer, let's say, then suddenly the brand boom. That's sometimes happen. We saw many new generation, rich new generation come from this digital consumer. It's come from Instagram, social media, TikTok. They sell it. It's new things for Indonesia. And I think it's a good thing. I think that's the result from the trend of the marketplace and social media.
And even now, housewives are becoming sellers or getting involved in this. What's your take on this trend?
Yeah, I think it's good. The economy becoming fair. That's what we call it, fair for everyone, because people from, let's say, from east part of Indonesia can sell to someone in Jakarta. Yeah, and the other way around, people in Jakarta can sell to people in the west part of Indonesia. It's becoming connected, and it's getting more efficient, I think. Getting the economy, overall economy, I think Indonesia is becoming more efficient. It's cheaper, the logistic costs, the process of distribution is also cheaper.
Well,
and the marketing is also cheaper right now.
It sounds like an exciting time for Indonesia. All the pieces are coming together and the opportunities are opening up. So I'd love to wrap up with a quick fire round of questions. Which Indonesian dish do you recommend to every visitor?
Nasi goreng.
And what is it?
It's fried rice. It's the most popular food in Indonesia.
Amazing. Your proudest moment?
My proudest moment is when Bukalapak went IPO.
Most inspiring entrepreneur you've met?
Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn. Yeah.
Guilty pleasure after a long workday?
Delicious food.
Back to question one.
Yeah, usually not healthy.
One book or movie that has influenced how you think about business?
Steve Jobs movie. Yeah, I watch the Pirates of Silicon Valley 7 movie. I watched it when I was, I think, end of elementary school. It really inspired me to be a computer scientist and then to be a founder because the story is it's very classic story, tech story, right?
Good choice. Best piece of advice you've ever received in business?
Try, fail, and try again.
And if there's one space that you would recommend for an aspiring entrepreneur now in Indonesia or in emerging markets to focus in on, where there's a big potential for return, what would that be?
AI, but have to be global. Global AI. AI is like the new internet. We don't know. Yeah, when in first internet launch, you didn't know, right? Is it going to be Amazon or is it going to Google? No one know. Even I don't know what kind of AI application in the future that will be massively used by many people. We still don't know. That's why.
Any prediction on how it will
I asked them
impact
to
the
find
market?
it. They find it.
Any prediction on how it will impact Indonesia?
A lot. I think everyone will use application that has AI on it. Maybe e-commerce AI or video AI, social media AI. I don't know. Maybe.
Thank you, Zaky, for having us here in Jakarta on Money Moves.
Yeah. Thank you.
Zaky says Indonesia is full of opportunities. Do you have an idea for a business that could take off here in Indonesia? Let me know in the comments.